The presentation hall buzzed with excitement as students from 17 different alien species gathered around holographic displays. The annual Interspecies Predator Symposium was always competitive, but this year felt different. Everyone wanted to prove their homeworld had the most fearsome hunter in the galaxy. Daewon sat quietly in the Earth delegation section, watching the displays with growing frustration. His friend Hyunwoo shifted uncomfortably beside him, while Ji-won kept her expression neutral. They had traveled from Earth to Galactic University Station Epsilon for this event, and so far every species had dismissed their presentations with barely concealed laughter. The Scarosians dominated the conversation. Tralvek, a tall reptilian student with gleaming scales, stood at the main podium. His voice carried authority and pride as he manipulated the holographic controls. A massive creature materialized above the crowd. It stood 12 feet tall on 6 powerful limbs. Diamond-hard scales covered its body like natural armor. Venomous claws extended from each limb, dripping simulated toxins. Its eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. "Behold the Skalmor," Tralvek announced. For 10 million years, this apex predator ruled Scaros Prime. No creature challenged it. No prey escaped it. Even our ancestors lived in fear of its hunting packs. The hologram showed a Skalmor pack taking down a massive herbivore. The aliens in the audience murmured approval. The hunt was efficient and brutal. The creatures moved with military precision, coordinating their attacks without visible communication. Tralvek's chest swelled with pride. The Skalmor bite force measures 8,000 pounds per square inch. Their armor deflects most energy weapons. They hunt in packs with tactical intelligence. Their pheromones paralyze prey with pure fear. He paused dramatically. They nearly drove 4 other species to extinction before we developed advanced technology to contain them. Applause erupted from multiple sections. Venica, an insectoid observer from the Hive Collective, clicked her mandibles in appreciation. Mortax, an amphibious scholar, nodded his bulbous head. Even the usually reserved crystalline beings seemed impressed. Tralovek's eyes swept across the room and landed on the Earth delegation. A smirk crossed his face. Of course, not all worlds produce such magnificent predators. "I understand Earth's representatives wish to present their tigers?" He said the word like it was a joke. Several aliens laughed. Earth had a reputation throughout the galaxy as a death world, but not for its animals. Everyone knew about Earth's terrible diseases, violent weather, and poisonous plants. But Earth's fauna seemed almost cute compared to the monsters other worlds produced. Daewon felt his jaw tighten. Hyunwoo put a warning hand on his arm, but Daewon stood anyway. He walked to the podium with measured steps. Tralvek moved aside with exaggerated courtesy, still smirking. "Thank you for that impressive presentation," Daewon said calmly. He activated his own holographic display. A Bengal tiger materialized above the crowd. It was beautiful, with orange fur striped in black, powerful muscles moving under its coat. Compared to the Skalmor, it looked almost small. The laughter grew louder. Someone in the back called out, "Is that a pet?" Daewon ignored the comment. The Bengal tiger, an apex predator from Earth. Adult males weigh between 200 and 260 kilograms. Bite force measures 1,050 pounds per square inch. They are solitary hunters with complex territorial behavior. "How adorable," Tralvek interrupted. "Our Skalmor could swallow 3 of those creatures whole." "Perhaps," Daewon replied. His voice remained steady. "But size isn't everything in predation. Tigers have night vision 6 times better than humans. They can swim several kilometers. They can drag prey twice their weight up into trees. And most importantly, they think." "All predators think," Mortax said dismissively. "Basic survival instinct." "Not like this." Ji-won stood and joined Daewon at the podium. She had been silent until now, but her voice carried quiet confidence. Tigers don't just hunt. They study, they plan. They adapt. She displayed footage of a tiger hunting. The great cat moved through tall grass like a ghost. It stopped frequently, watching its prey from different angles. Minutes passed as the tiger simply observed. Then it began circling, using the terrain to stay hidden. When it finally struck, the attack was perfect. "Quick, precise, fatal. Ambush tactics," Ji-won explained. Tigers can scout prey patterns for days before attacking. They learn from every hunt. They modify their techniques based on what works and what doesn't. Tralvek waved his clawed hand dismissively. "Skalmor hunt in packs. Coordination beats individual skill." Daewon smiled, but there was no humor in it. I have a proposal. A wager, if you will. The room fell silent. Wagers at the symposium were rare but binding according to academic tradition. Go on, Tralovec said carefully. We create a simulation. Neural and biological accuracy are standard protocols. Place a Bengal tiger and a Skalmore in a neutral hunting environment. Let natural behavior determine the outcome. Day one paused. But we don't just watch a fight. We study the behavior. Analyze the tactics, examine the biology. Real science, not just entertainment. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Several faculty members leaned forward with interest. This was exactly the kind of academic challenge the symposium was meant to encourage. Tralovec's smirk returned. You want us to watch your little cat get torn apart by a real apex predator? Very well. I accept your wager. Excellent. Day one kept his expression neutral. We'll need 1 week to prepare comprehensive data. Biological scans, behavioral analysis, historical hunting records. Both species, complete information. Agreed, Tralovec said quickly. He was already imagining his victory. 1 week from today we reconvene. I look forward to your concession speech. The Scarosian delegation laughed as they left the podium. Other alien students followed, chattering about the upcoming simulation. Most assumed the outcome was obvious. A few placed informal bets on how quickly the Skalmore would win. Hyunwoo waited until the crowd dispersed before speaking. Are you sure about this? The Skalmore is genuinely impressive. If we're wrong, we're not wrong, Jiwon said quietly. She was still watching the holographic tiger, now frozen mid-stride. They're making the same mistake everyone makes about Earth predators. They're judging by size and strength. What should they judge by? Asked a voice behind them. They turned to find Venika watching with her multifaceted eyes. The insectoid observer tilted her head. Genuine question. Your confidence suggests you know something we don't. Jiwon smiled. Tigers survived on Earth for millions of years. Do you know what that means? It means they competed with and outlasted dozens of other apex predators. It means they adapted to changing climates, changing prey, and changing competition. And most remarkably, they survived the arrival of humanity. Why is that remarkable? Venika asked. Because humans are the most dangerous predator Earth ever produced, Daewon said simply. And tigers learned how to coexist with us. That required intelligence that most species never develop. Venika was silent for a moment. Her mandibles clicked thoughtfully. I will watch this simulation with great interest. Perhaps there is more to your death world than we understood. As the insectoid left, Hyunwoo turned to his colleagues. We have 1 week to make them understand what Earth predators really are. They'll understand, Jiwon said. She was still smiling, and now there was something fierce in her expression. Something that reminded Daewon why Jiwon had dedicated her life to studying apex predators. She respected them. She understood them. And she knew exactly what tigers were capable of. The symposium hall emptied slowly. Daewon stood looking at the frozen hologram of the tiger. 1 week until the simulation. 1 week to show the galaxy that Earth's predators weren't jokes. They were survivors, and survival required something more dangerous than size or strength. It required intelligence. The week passed quickly. Both delegations worked continuously, gathering data and preparing presentations. The simulation chamber was booked. Faculty members spread word about the upcoming demonstration. By the 7th day, nearly 300 beings had registered to attend. The event had grown from a simple wager into something much larger. Daewon arrived early at the main lecture hall. The space was enormous, designed to accommodate multiple species with different atmospheric requirements. Translucent barriers separated sections, each with customized environments. The Earth delegation had a small area near the main display screens. Already, alien students filled the seats, chattering in dozens of languages that the universal translator struggled to parse. Tralovec entered with his Scarosian delegation. They moved with confidence, carrying data tablets and holographic projectors. The reptilian student nodded at Daewon. It wasn't friendly, but it was respectful. Academic rivalry had rules. Shall we begin? Asked Professor Talmir, the elderly crystalline being served as moderator. His body refracted light into rainbow patterns as he moved to the central podium. This demonstration will follow standard protocols. First, each delegation presents their apex predators' biological and behavioral data. Then we proceed to simulation. Questions must wait until after presentations. Understood? Both delegations agreed. Talmir gestured to the Scarosians. You may begin. Tralovec stepped forward. His presentation was impressive. Holographic Skalmor moved through various environments, demonstrating hunting techniques. Numbers and charts filled secondary screens. The Skalmor possesses 6 limbs, each ending in retractable claws coated with paralytic venom, Tralvek began. Bite force measures 8,000 pounds per square inch, capable of crushing armored prey. Their scales are layered diamond carbide composite, naturally evolved. Energy weapons below military grade cannot penetrate. He showed footage of Skalmor pack hunting. 5 creatures surrounded a massive herbivore. They moved with disturbing coordination, cutting off escape routes without visible signals. The kill was efficient. 1 Skalmor distracted from the front while 2 others attacked the rear legs. When the prey fell, the remaining 2 delivered killing strikes to vital areas. Pack coordination rivals our military units, Tralvek continued. They communicate through pheromones and subsonic vocalizations. Each pack has distinct tactical signatures suggesting cultural knowledge transfer. Young Skalmor learn hunting techniques from adults over several years. Mortax raised an appendage. What is their success rate? 73%, Tralvek answered proudly. One of the highest recorded success rates for any known predator. Impressed murmurs spread through the audience. Venica clicked her mandibles rapidly, her species equivalent of applause. The Skalmor data was genuinely remarkable. Additionally, Tralvek added, Skalmor produce fear-inducing pheromones. Prey species on our world evolved stress responses to these chemicals. Exposure causes paralysis in most creatures. He paused for effect. They literally frighten prey to death. The presentation continued for another 20 minutes. Tralvek covered everything from reproduction to territorial behavior to extinction patterns. The Skalmor had driven 3 other predator species to extinction through competition. They had nearly caused the extinction of 2 major prey species before Scarosian civilization developed technology to control them. When Tralvek finished, the audience was clearly impressed. Several species began whispering about adjusting their own apex predator rankings. The Skalmor was truly formidable. Professor Telmir turned to the Earth delegation. Your presentation? Ji-Won stood. She appeared calm, but Daewon noticed her hands were steady in that particular way that meant she was absolutely certain of something. Hyunwoo activated their holographic systems. A Bengal tiger appeared, life-sized and magnificent. It paced slowly, muscles rippling under striped fur. Unlike the aggressive posturing of the Skalmor display, the tiger simply existed. Powerful, patient, real. The Bengal tiger, Ji-Won began. Her voice was steady and clear. Adult males weigh 220 to 260 kilograms. Females slightly smaller. Bite force measures 1,050 pounds per square inch. Solitary hunters with complex territorial behavior that spans up to 100 square kilometers. Someone in the audience laughed. The numbers seemed pathetic compared to the Skalmor. Ji-Won ignored the interruption. Tigers possess night vision 6 times more effective than baseline humans. They can swim distances up to 6 kilometers. Their hearing detects frequencies beyond most species' ranges. Most remarkably, they can drag prey twice their body weight vertically up trees. Why would they do that? Asked Mortax. To protect their kill from other predators, Hyunwoo answered. He displayed footage of a tiger dragging a water buffalo carcass up a steep incline into a tree. The feat of strength was impressive, but the audience still seemed skeptical. Ji-Won continued. Tigers are ambush predators. Unlike pack hunters, they rely entirely on individual skill. Each hunt requires extensive preparation. They study prey patterns for days. They memorize terrain. They calculate angles of approach. A single mistake means starvation. She showed hunting footage. A tiger stalked through tall grass. The video was slowed to show details. The tiger stopped frequently, adjusting its position based on wind direction. It tested different approach angles. When prey moved unexpectedly, the tiger abandoned the hunt rather than waste energy on a low-probability attack. Patient, Ji-Won said. Tigers can wait hours for the perfect moment. They don't hunt for sport or dominance. They hunt to survive. Every attack is calculated. Their success rate? Asked Telmir. 5 to 10%, Ji-Won answered. The audience erupted in noise. Several aliens laughed openly. 5 to 10%? That was terrible compared to the Skalmor's 73%. Tralvek stood. With respect, you've proven my point. Your tiger is clearly inferior, have we? Daewon stood beside Ji-Won. A 90% failure rate means something important. It means tigers can't afford mistakes. It means every successful hunt represents perfect execution against overwhelming odds. He changed the holographic display. New footage appeared. A tiger hunting a crocodile at a water's edge. The reptile was massive, armored with jaws capable of crushing bones. But the tiger circled patiently, studying. When it struck, it avoided the crocodile's strongest weapons entirely. The tiger attacked from behind, jaws clamping on the back of the crocodile's skull, applying crushing pressure to the spine. Tigers don't just hunt herbivores, Day-One explained. Documentation shows tigers hunting crocodiles, bears, pythons, and even other predators. They've learned to overcome creatures that should, by all logic, be able to kill them. Hyunwoo displayed more footage. Tigers hunting sloth bears twice their weight. Tigers killing rock pythons longer than a Skalmore. Tigers confronting and defeating packs of wild dogs. Adaptability, Ji-Won said. Tigers modify their techniques based on prey. They learn from failed hunts. They remember specific dangers and avoid them. Documented cases show tigers teaching experimental hunting methods to their cubs, suggesting cultural knowledge transfer similar to the Skalmore. Venica leaned forward in her section. You mentioned they survived human arrival. Elaborate. Ji-Won smiled. Humans are Earth's apex predator. We have no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. But we developed tools, strategy, and coordination. We outcompeted every major predator on our world. Most went extinct. She paused to let that sink in. Tigers survived. They learned to avoid human settlements. They learned to hunt when humans weren't watching. They learned to recognize human weapons and tactics. Some even learned to hunt humans who tried to hunt them. Ji-Won's expression was serious. Tigers survived the most dangerous predator Earth ever produced. That required intelligence most species never develop. Interesting, Talmir said carefully. But intelligence doesn't defeat superior strength and armor, doesn't it? Hyunwoo displayed biological comparison charts. Tigers evolved alongside heavily armored prey. Indian rhinos, water buffalo, wild boar, all have thick hides or armor-like protection. Tigers learned that armor has gaps. They learned vertebrates have similar weak points regardless of size or protection. He showed anatomical diagrams. Tigers instinctively targeted specific areas. The back of the neck, the spine, the throat, the skull base. Areas where armor was thinnest or where vital systems were vulnerable. Problem-solving, Day-One said. Tigers don't rely on overwhelming force. They rely on precision. They find weaknesses. They exploit advantages. They adapt. The audience was quieter now. Some aliens leaned forward, reconsidering their initial assessments. Others still looked skeptical, but the dismissive laughter had stopped. Tralvik stood again. Your presentation is compelling, but theory isn't reality. The simulation will prove which predator is truly superior. Agreed, Day-One said. Shall we proceed? Professor Talmir checked his data tablet. The simulation chamber is prepared. Both creatures are ready. We begin in 10 minutes. He looked at both delegations. Remember, this is academic research. We observe behavior, not just outcome. Understood? Both groups nodded. The audience began moving toward the simulation observation deck. Day-Won watched them go, then turned to Ji-Won and Hyunwoo. They still don't believe us, Hyunwoo said quietly. They will, Ji-Won replied. She was watching the holographic tiger, still pacing in its display. Tigers have been underestimated before. It never ends well for those who underestimate them. Day-Won smiled. In 10 minutes, the galaxy would learn what Earth already knew. Size and strength mattered, but intelligence and adaptation mattered more. The simulation chamber was a marvel of galactic technology, a 10-square-kilometer space that could recreate any environment with near-perfect accuracy. Temperature, humidity, terrain, even the chemical composition of the air could be adjusted. For this demonstration, the system had generated a neutral environment, mixed woodland and grassland, similar to both species' natural hunting grounds. Neither predator would have territorial advantage. 300 beings filled the observation deck. Transparent aluminum windows provided perfect views. Multiple screens displayed different camera angles. Biometric sensors tracked both creatures' vital signs. Everything would be recorded for academic analysis. Day-Won stood with Ji-Won and Hyunwoo near the main viewing window. Across the deck, Tralvik and his delegation watched with confident expressions. Between them, Professor Talmir monitored the technical systems. The Skalmore is AI-generated, Talmir announced, based on centuries of behavioral data from Scaros Prime. Biologically accurate, behaviorally authentic. The Bengal tiger is real. temporarily transported with full ethical oversight and safety protocols. The creature will be returned to Earth unharmed regardless of outcome. Understood, both delegations said. Talmir pressed several controls. Simulation begins now. Time acceleration factor of 2. What we observe in 1 hour represents 2 hours of real behavior. The screens flickered to life. The Skalmor appeared at the northern end of the simulation area. It was massive, even more impressive than the hologram suggested. Its scales caught the artificial sunlight, gleaming like polished metal. The creature's 6 legs carried it with surprising grace. Its head swiveled constantly, scanning the environment with predatory focus. The tiger materialized at the southern end. It stood motionless for several seconds, whiskers twitching. Then it began moving through the tall grass. Within moments, the orange and black stripes blended perfectly with the vegetation. Even knowing where to look, Day One could barely track it on the screens. The Skalmor immediately began territorial behavior. It scraped its claws against rocks, leaving deep gouges. It released pheromones at regular intervals, marking territory. Then it vocalized. The sound made several aliens flinch. It was a roar designed by evolution to instill primal fear, a challenge to anything within range. The tiger's response surprised everyone. Silence. The great cat didn't answer the challenge. It didn't roar back or mark territory. Instead, it did something that made G1 smile. It disappeared. Where did it go? Mortax asked, squinting at the screens. Hyunwoo highlighted a section on the tactical display. There, moving through heavy vegetation toward that rocky area. It's running away, Tralvek said triumphantly. Your predator fears mine. Watch, G1 said quietly. The Skalmor continued its territorial display. It dominated the space, moving with the confidence of a creature that had never encountered serious opposition. It searched for the tiger, following scent markers and heat signatures. But the tiger stayed hidden, moving through terrain that provided maximum cover. An hour passed in simulation time. The audience grew restless. Several aliens commented that the demonstration was boring. Where was the confrontation? Where was the fight? Daewon watched the tactical display instead of the main screens. The tiger's movement pattern became clear. It wasn't fleeing randomly. It was circling. More specifically, it was studying. Every time the tiger glimpsed the Skalmor, it observed from a different angle. It watched how the creature moved. It studied the armor plating, looking for gaps. It memorized the Skalmor's patrol patterns. The tiger was doing exactly what evolution had designed it to do. It was learning. This is pointless, someone in the audience complained. The tiger is clearly outmatched. Patience, Professor Talmir said. His crystalline body refracted the screen light into rainbow patterns. Predation is rarely immediate. We observe natural behavior, not forced combat. Another hour passed. The Skalmor grew aggressive. It wasn't finding its challenger, and that violated its instincts. The creature began moving more erratically, checking areas multiple times. It vocalized more frequently, the roars growing angrier. The tiger continued its patient observation. But now something changed. Daewon noticed it first on the tactical display. The tiger wasn't just circling anymore. Every time it showed itself briefly, appearing at the edge of clearings or on top of rocks, the Skalmor moved in a predictable direction. It's herding, Daewon said softly. Hyunwoo saw it too. It's manipulating the Skalmor's position. G1 nodded. The tiger identified behavioral patterns. Now it's exploiting them, Tralvek overheard. Impossible. The Skalmor is too intelligent to be manipulated by a simple ambush predator. Is it? G1 pointed at the tactical display. Watch the pattern. Every time the tiger appears, your Skalmor charges in that direction. The tiger is using your creature's aggression against it. The Skalmor entered a rocky outcropping. Large boulders provided cover and high ground. By the Skalmor's standards, it was excellent defensive terrain. The creature settled onto a flat rock, scanning the area with predatory patience. Finally, Tralvek said, my predator has chosen strong ground. Let's see your tiger attack now. That's not defensive terrain for an ambush predator, Daewon said. His voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath. Those rocks provide cover from ground level, but they're not vertical enough to prevent attack from above. From above? Tralvek looked confused. Then his eyes widened. The tiger struck. 300 aliens watched in stunned silence as the great cat launched itself from a boulder 10 meters above the Skalmore. The tiger had climbed there unseen, positioning itself perfectly. Gravity and muscle combined into devastating momentum. The tiger crashed onto the Skalmore's back. Its claws sank deep between armor plates, finding the gaps that protected vital organs. The Skalmore thrashed violently, trying to dislodge its attacker. Its venomous claws struck backward, but the tiger's position put it outside their reach. The tiger's jaws clamped onto the back of the Skalmore's neck. Not the heavily armored top of the skull, not the protected throat, the exact point where the skull met the spine, where armor was thinnest to allow flexibility. The Skalmore's roar changed pitch. Pain and surprise replaced aggression. The creature spun, using its 6 legs to create bucking motions that would dislodge most attackers. But the tiger held on with all 4 legs, claws embedded between armor plates, jaws applying constant crushing pressure. 90 seconds. That was all it took. The simulation's AI detected critical damage to the Skalmore's spinal column, a fatal injury. The creature's legs collapsed. Its systems shut down. The simulation ended with the tiger still clamped onto the Skalmore's neck. The observation deck was absolutely silent. Professor Talmir was the first to speak. Simulation complete. Cause of termination: catastrophic neurological damage. The tiger's bite severed the Skalmore's spinal connection to its motor cortex. He paused. I have never seen that specific attack pattern in our database. You wouldn't have, G1 said. Her voice carried through the silence. The tiger had never seen a Skalmore before. It didn't know that specific anatomy. It extrapolated. Venika's mandibles clicked rapidly. Explain. Day 1 activated a display. It showed comparative anatomy of various Earth prey animals. Tigers evolved hunting heavily armored creatures. Indian rhinos. Water buffalo, wild boar. They learned that armor has gaps at joint areas. They learned that vertebrates share similar weak points regardless of species. They learned to observe first, then strike at the most vulnerable location. He showed footage of the simulation's final moments, slowed down, watched the attack angle. The tiger didn't just jump. It calculated trajectory to land exactly where the Skalmore couldn't effectively defend. It avoided the venomous claws entirely. It positioned itself outside the range of the Skalmore's bite. Every aspect of that attack was planned. Planned, Talmir repeated slowly. That's the concerning word. This creature didn't just hunt the Skalmore. It studied it, predicted its behavior, manipulated its position, and executed a tactical strike. That's not predation, Venika said quietly. That's warfare. The word hung in the air. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably. Warfare implied intelligence, strategy, and abstract thinking. Those were traits of sapient species, not animals. Tralvek finally spoke. His voice had lost its earlier confidence. Request analysis of the observation period. What was the tiger doing during those 2 hours? Hyunwoo pulled up detailed tracking data. Initial 30 minutes general reconnaissance. The tiger explored the terrain, identifying potential ambush locations. Next 60 minutes target observation. The tiger watched the Skalmore from multiple angles, studying movement patterns and anatomy. Final 30 minutes tactical positioning. The tiger manipulated the Skalmore's location while moving into optimal attack position. It planned everything, Mortak said. Every single move was calculated. That's what tigers do, G1 explained. They can't afford to fail. Their low hunting success rate means they've evolved to make every attempt count. They don't rush. They don't rely on overwhelming force. They think. Professor Talmir reset the simulation. Run it again. Different terrain variables. I want to see if the outcome was coincidental. The second simulation placed both creatures in dense forest. The third used open savanna. The fourth used rocky mountains. The fifth used mixed wetlands. The tiger won every single time. Each hunt followed the same pattern. Observation, manipulation, precise strike at the most vulnerable location. The tiger adapted its tactics to each environment, using terrain advantages the Skalmore ignored. In the wetland simulation, the tiger even used water to mask its heat signature, something the biologists hadn't expected. By the sixth simulation, Tralvek had stopped watching. He sat with his head in his hands. Other Scarosian students looked equally devastated. Their apex predator, the creature they'd bragged about for years, had been systematically dismantled by an Earth animal they'd dismissed as weak. Enough, Talmir said quietly. I believe we have sufficient data. The observation deck remained silent as beings processed what they'd witnessed. Day one felt no satisfaction. This wasn't about winning a wager. This was about understanding. Questions? Telmir asked the audience. An alien from a crystalline species raised a gleaming appendage. What is the tiger's natural predator? Every apex predator has something that controls its population. Day one answered carefully. Historically, only humans. We're the only species that successfully hunted tigers in significant numbers. And tigers sometimes won those encounters, asked Venica. Yes, G1 confirmed. Tigers learned to recognize human weapons and tactics. Some individuals became specifically dangerous to human hunters. We called them man-eaters. They adapted to hunting us. The implications spread through the crowd like ripples in water. Earth's apex predator was a species with no natural weapons that hunted everything else, and tigers had learned to survive alongside them. Some had even learned to hunt them back. What kind of world produced creatures like that? The symposium reconvened 3 days later. Word had spread throughout Galactic University Station Epsilon about the simulation results. What started as a simple wager between students had become something much larger. Faculty from multiple departments wanted explanations. How had a relatively small Earth predator defeated a creature that represented millions of years of apex evolution? The lecture hall was packed beyond capacity. Security had to establish additional viewing areas with live feeds. Day one estimated over 800 beings were watching, either in person or remotely. The pressure was intense, but G1 seemed energized by it. She had spent the 3 days preparing something comprehensive. Professor Talmir called the session to order. This symposium has raised fundamental questions about predator evolution. The Earth delegation has agreed to provide historical context. We have expanded this from a student presentation to a formal academic lecture. He gestured to G1. The floor is yours. G1 stood and activated the holographic systems. A timeline materialized above the crowd, stretching back hundreds of millions of years. Earth is classified as a death world primarily for environmental hazards, she began. Violent weather, tectonic instability, extreme temperature variations, aggressive microorganisms. These classifications are accurate. But we missed something important. We classified Earth for what it is, not for what it produces. She highlighted a point on the timeline. 250 million years ago, Earth's first major apex predators, gorgonopsids, saber-toothed proto-mammals that dominated their ecosystems. A hologram appeared showing a creature that made several aliens recoil. It was roughly the size of a large tiger, but built like a nightmare. Massive fangs, powerful jaws, and a body designed for killing. Gorgonopsids went extinct, G1 continued. Not from environmental factors. From competition. Newer predators evolved and outcompeted them. The timeline advanced. 65 million years ago, after the dinosaur extinction event, Earth produced new apex predators within just a few million years. She showed terrorbirds, flightless avians that stood 3 meters tall with beaks that could crush skulls, then giant crocodilians that made the modern versions look small, cave bears twice the size of any current bear, dire wolves, saber-toothed cats with fangs longer than human hands. Every era, G1 said, Earth produced apex predators that would qualify as exceptional on most galactic worlds. And every era, these predators faced intense competition, not just from prey defending themselves, from other predators. Day one took over the presentation. Predator competition is the key factor. Most galactic worlds develop 1 or 2 apex species that dominate for millions of years. Earth constantly produced multiple apex predators competing for the same resources. He displayed comparative evolution charts. On average, galactic apex predators face significant competition once every 5 million years. Earth apex predators faced it continuously. The result? Evolution favored not just strength, but adaptability and intelligence. What killed these ancient apex predators? Asked Mortax. If Earth kept producing new ones, something must have controlled them, Hyunwoo answered. Environmental changes eliminated some, but most were outcompeted by a single species, humans. The hologram changed to show early humans, not the modern technology-equipped variety. Early humans with basic stone tools. They looked fragile compared to the predators they shared the world with. Humans evolved with no natural weapons, Hyunwoo explained. No claws, no fangs, no armor. No venom, no size advantage. By every physical metric, humans should have been prey, not predators. Yet you claim humans outcompeted everything? Fenneca's mandibles clicked skeptically. Not claim. Documented fact. Hyunwoo showed archaeological evidence. Hunting sites where humans had killed woolly mammoths, giant sloths, cave bears, and other massive creatures. Humans developed something more dangerous than physical weapons. We developed strategy, cooperation, and tool use. We learned to adapt faster than any other species. Jiwan displayed extinction patterns. Within 50,000 years of humans reaching various continents, megafauna populations collapsed. Saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, woolly rhinoceros, cave lions, short-faced bears, gone, either hunted to extinction directly or outcompeted for resources. The silence in the hall was profound. Several aliens looked uncomfortable. The implications were disturbing. Tigers survived this, Daewon said quietly. Tigers coexisted with the most dangerous predator Earth ever produced. That required exceptional intelligence and adaptability. Tralvik finally spoke. He had been silent since the simulations, but now he looked troubled rather than defensive. You're saying Earth's environment forced predators to evolve intelligence just to survive? Precisely, Jiwan confirmed. Earth didn't reward strength alone. It rewarded problem-solving, adaptation, and learning. Tigers that couldn't learn, that couldn't adapt, that couldn't solve the problem of human competition, died without offspring. Only the smartest survived. Professor Talmir's crystalline body shifted colors. This suggests we fundamentally misunderstood Death World classification. We focused on environmental hazards. We should have examined survival pressure. May I? A new voice spoke. The aliens turned to see an elderly being from the academic council. Korthan was a renowned xenobiologist who had studied hundreds of worlds. I've been reviewing Earth's biological data since the simulation. With your permission, I'd like to share findings. Jiwan nodded. Of course, Korthan projected new data. Earth's species survival rate is 15%, meaning 85% of all species that ever evolved on Earth are now extinct. Compare this to the galactic average of 67% survival. Earth eliminates species 5 times faster than typical worlds. Why? Asked several beings simultaneously. Because Earth doesn't just challenge species with environment, it challenges them with competition. Constant, relentless competition. Korthan highlighted specific data. Earth produces winners, not merely survivors. Species that can't adapt disappear within evolutionary time frames that seem impossible by galactic standards. Show them the other predators, Daewon suggested quietly. Jiwan nodded. She had hoped to make this point naturally, but Korthan's analysis provided the perfect opening. Tigers are remarkable, but they're not unique on Earth. Let me show you others. The holograms changed. First, orcas. The massive black and white cetaceans swam through projected oceans. Orcas, apex predators that hunt great white sharks not for food but for their livers specifically. They've developed culture-specific hunting techniques that vary between populations. Some orcas specialize in hunting seals. Others hunt whales. They teach these techniques to their young. Next, a small but fierce creature appeared. Honey badgers. They weigh perhaps 12 kilograms, yet they attack and kill prey 50 times their size. They're recorded fighting lions, hyenas, and even elephants. They have no fear response to creatures larger than themselves. The projections continued. Army ants that could strip large animals to bones in hours. Octopi that could solve complex puzzles and modify their hunting strategies based on prey behavior. Mantis shrimp with punch speeds that created cavitation bubbles and could break through aquarium glass. Each of these predators exhibits intelligence beyond what should be necessary for simple survival, Jiwan explained. Earth forced them to develop it. The alternative was extinction. What about your social predators? Venika asked. You mentioned pack hunting. Hyunwoo took this section. Earth's social predators show tactical coordination that most galactic species only achieve after developing language. He showed wolves hunting. The pack split into groups, one driving prey toward another. They anticipated prey behavior and adjusted tactics mid-hunt. Lions appeared next. Prides working together to take down prey much larger than individual lions could handle. The footage showed sophisticated coordination without visible communication. Then dolphins. The aquatic mammals used bubbles to herd fish, worked in teams to beach themselves temporarily to catch prey, and even cooperated with humans in some documented cases. But Earth's ultimate social predator is humanity itself, Daewon said. He showed early human hunting parties, small groups of humans taking down mammoths using nothing but coordination, persistence, and strategy. We learned from watching pack predators. We learned from competing against them. We became better at their own tactics. Mortax made a disturbing observation. You're not just a species from a death world. You're the apex predator of a death world. You survived by learning from and outcompeting every other apex predator your world produced. And we brought that knowledge to the stars, G1 added. Human military tactics, survival strategies, even our social structures all trace back to lessons learned on Earth. We're not physically impressive by galactic standards, but we learned to survive on a world that eliminated 99% of species that ever existed. Professor Talmir was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. I've reviewed Earth's admission records to this university. We classified you as a restricted species, limited enrollment due to death world origin. We assumed you needed protection from galactic norms. His crystalline body flickered. We had it backward. Perhaps other species need protection from Earth's graduates. That's not fair, Daewon protested. We're not aggressive. We're just survivors. Survivors who learned tactics from tigers and wolves, Vanika said quietly. Survivors who outcompeted every apex predator on your world. Survivors who think like predators even though you've developed civilization and empathy. She paused. That's more disturbing than simple aggression. Aggression can be predicted. Intelligence combined with predatory instincts is unpredictable. The lecture hall filled with uncomfortable murmurs. Several alien students looked at the Earth delegation with new wariness. They had come to see a demonstration about tigers. Instead, they'd learned that Earth produced species that combined intelligence with survival instincts, honed over millions of years of brutal competition. Tralvek stood slowly. I owe you an apology, all of you. I mocked tigers because I didn't understand what they represented. They're not just predators. They're evolutionary survivors from a world that eliminated everything that couldn't adapt. He looked at Daewon directly. I underestimated Earth. I won't make that mistake again. None of us will, added Korthen. This symposium has revealed something important. Death worlds don't just challenge species with environment, they challenge them with competition. And the species that survive are not merely dangerous, they're brilliant. G1 smiled slightly. Tigers aren't monsters, they're survivors, just like humans, just like everything that still exists on Earth. We learned to adapt or we died. It's that simple. And that terrifying, Vanika added. But there was respect in her voice now, not fear. The symposium's final session came 1 week after the simulations. The atmosphere had changed completely. Where alien students once laughed at Earth's predators, they now asked serious questions. Faculty from multiple departments attended. Several had requested formal collaboration with the Earth delegation to study Death World evolution. Professor Talmir opened the session. This symposium has exceeded all expectations. We've learned more about predator evolution in 2 weeks than some research programs discover in years. Today's final demonstration was requested by the Scarosian delegation.
Tralvek.
The reptilian student stood. His posture was different now. Less arrogant, more scholarly. I requested this session because the tiger simulations raised questions I couldn't answer. If Earth predators are so formidable due to intelligence and adaptation, do humans employ similar tactics in conflict? I want to understand the practical applications. Daewon exchanged glances with Jiwon and Hyunwoo. They had anticipated this question. You want to see human military tactics? With context, Tralvek clarified. Not just demonstrations. I want to understand the connection between what tigers do naturally and what humans do strategically. Several military representatives from various species leaned forward with interest. Galactic warfare followed predictable patterns. Superior numbers won battles. Superior technology determined victory. Direct confrontation was standard. But Earth had no significant military presence in galactic space yet. No one knew how humans would actually fight if pressed. We can provide that context, Jiwan said. But you need to understand something first. Humans didn't invent our tactics. We learned them from watching Earth's predators. Everything we do strategically has roots in natural hunting behavior. She activated the holographic displays. A tiger appeared, stalking through vegetation. Beside it, footage showed human soldiers moving through similar terrain. The parallels were immediate and disturbing. Ambush tactics, Jiwan explained. Tigers wait for the perfect moment. They use terrain for concealment. They approach from unexpected angles. Human special forces do exactly the same thing. We learned patience and positioning from ambush predators. The hologram changed. Wolf packs appeared, coordinating a hunt. Beside them, human military units executed a flanking maneuver. The tactical similarities were obvious. Pack coordination, Hyunwoo said. Wolves taught us the value of working in coordinated groups. Split prey's attention. Attack from multiple directions. Support injured pack members. Every human military in history used variations of these tactics. But humans have technology, Mortax interjected. Surely that changes everything. Does it? Daewon showed historical footage. Small human resistance groups fighting against overwhelming military forces. They used guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, disappearing into terrain, striking when the enemy was vulnerable, then fading away. That's tiger behavior, Venika said quietly. Exactly what we saw in the simulation. Precisely, Daewon confirmed. When humans face superior forces, we fight like tigers. We observe, we adapt, we strike at weaknesses. We avoid direct confrontation. Until we've created advantageous conditions, he showed more. Examples. Vietnam, Afghanistan, dozens of historical conflicts where smaller forces defeated larger ones through adaptation and asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare, Jiwan said. Fighting an enemy not with equivalent force but with tactics they can't predict or counter. Tigers can't match a Skalmor's strength, so they don't try. They use intelligence instead. Humans do the same thing. Professor Talmir looked troubled. Are you suggesting Earth's military doctrine is based on predatory behavior? Not suggesting. Stating fact, Hyunwoo replied. He displayed military training documentation. Human soldiers study animal behavior as part of tactical training. We learn camouflage from tigers. We learn endurance from wolves. We learn patience from crocodiles. We learn coordination from dolphins. Every Earth predator taught us something valuable. This is disturbing, said a military representative from the hierarchical collective. Our warfare is based on logical resource allocation and strategic positioning. You're describing something more primal. Maybe, Jiwan admitted. But primal doesn't mean ineffective. Tigers have been using these tactics for millions of years. They work? Tralvek stood again. Show us specific examples. I want to see human tactics in actual application. Daewon hesitated. Some of this information is sensitive. Are you sure? This symposium is about understanding, Professor Talmir said. We're academics, not military planners. Show us what you're comfortable sharing. Daewon nodded. He displayed a simulated special operations mission. A small human team infiltrating a heavily defended position. The team moved like tigers. Slow, patient, and visible until the critical moment. When they struck, it was precise. They neutralized specific targets and withdrew before reinforcements arrived. Small team tactics, Daewon explained, based on solitary predator behavior. Each team member is highly trained and capable of independent action, but they coordinate like a pack when necessary. Best of both worlds. He showed another scenario, a human negotiator dealing with a hostile group. The negotiator appeared calm and reasonable, but observers noticed subtle behaviors. The negotiator controlled the physical space, positioned themselves near exits, and maintained awareness of all participants. Predatory awareness, Jiwan noted. Humans maintain tactical consciousness even in non-combat situations. We assess threats constantly. We identify escape routes automatically. We position ourselves advantageously without conscious thought. Tigers do the same thing. It's instinctive for them. We trained ourselves to match their instincts. You're making yourselves sound like predators, Mortax said uneasily. We are predators, Daewon said simply. We evolved as apex predators on Earth. We have cultural development and ethical frameworks, yes. But our fundamental nature comes from millions of years of competition and survival. We can't change that. We can only understand and manage it. Venika clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. Your tigers hunt to survive. They calculate every move because failure means death. Do humans maintain that same mentality? In conflict situations, yes, Hyunwoo confirmed. Human soldiers are trained to assume every mission is critical. Every decision matters. There's no room for casual mistakes. It's the same survival pressure tigers face, just applied to different circumstances. Professor Talmir pulled up comparative data. I'm examining galactic military success rates. Humans have engaged in limited conflicts since joining galactic society. 3 incidents, all resolved in Earth's favor, despite numerical or technological disadvantages. He paused. The pattern matches what we've observed with tigers. Superior forces defeated through adaptation and unexpected tactics. That can't be statistically significant, protested the hierarchical collective representative. 3 incidents? 3 incidents with 100% success rate against supposedly superior opponents, Talmir corrected. The pattern deserves examination. Tralvek looked at the Earth delegation with something that might have been respect or might have been concern. You came to this symposium to defend tigers. Instead, you've shown us that Earth produces species that think like predators, even after achieving civilization. That's more impressive and more frightening than I expected. Should you be frightened? Day-One asked directly. We're not aggressive. Earth has maintained peaceful relations with all galactic species. We follow laws. We cooperate. We contribute. You also adapted to galactic society faster than any species in recorded history, Venica observed. Within 50 years, you've established presence in most major sectors. Within 100 years, Earth graduates are leading research in multiple fields. That's not normal integration speed. It's adaptation, G1 said. The same thing tigers do. We observe. We learn, we adjust. Earth taught us that failure to adapt means extinction. So we adapted to galactic society the same way we adapted to everything else. An elderly academic stood. Corthan, the xenobiologist who had contributed to previous sessions. I've completed analysis of Earth's evolutionary data. With permission, I'd like to share conclusions. Professor Talmir gestured for him to continue. Kor then projected comprehensive biological comparisons. Earth's definition as a death world needs revision. Current classification focuses on environmental hazards, but Earth's true danger is its competitive pressure. Species either develop exceptional intelligence and adaptability, or they go extinct. There's no middle ground. He displayed survival statistics. Earth's extinction rate is 5 times the galactic average. But species that survive have traits found nowhere else. Problem-solving abilities that exceed predictions. Learning capacity that borders on sapient cognition in some cases. Tigers, orcas, octopi, and dozens of others show intelligence that shouldn't exist in non-technological species. And humans are the apex of that evolutionary pressure, Mortax said quietly. Exactly, Corthan confirmed. Humans develop technology and civilization while retaining all the adaptive traits that made them successful predators. You have ethics and empathy alongside predatory instincts and survival awareness. That combination is unique in galactic records. Several months passed. Day-One received a message from Tralvek. The Scarosian had enrolled in Earth evolutionary studies. His message was brief but meaningful. I spent years believing Skalmor represented perfect predation. You showed me I was wrong. Perfection isn't strength or size. It's the ability to adapt and survive. Tigers understood this. Humans perfected it. My people need to learn these lessons. Thank you for teaching me to look beyond obvious power. Day-One shared the message with Ji-Won and Hyunwoo. They were back on Earth, standing in a tiger preserve. A Bengal tiger moved through tall grass, completely unaware of the galactic impact it had made. The great cat was simply being what evolution had designed it to be. A survivor. An adapter. A perfect example of intelligence in action. Think we changed any minds? Hyunwoo asked. Ji-Won smiled. We showed them what Earth really is. Not a world of monsters, but a world that demands excellence. Every species that survives here does so by being brilliant, not just strong. The tiger paused, looking directly at them for a brief moment. Then it faded back into the grass. Invisible. Patient. Eternal. Day-One understood why ancient humans respected tigers enough to make them symbols in every culture that encountered them. They represented what survival truly meant. Not dominance through force, but endurance through adaptation. Not conquest through strength, but victory through intelligence. Earth's greatest lesson wasn't about producing predators. It was about producing thinkers who could survive anything. Tigers proved it naturally. Humans learned it culturally. And now the galaxy was beginning to understand it too. The symposium had ended, but the real education was just beginning.